playing today a piece that, it's been a hard week, and this is a piece that also really gives me comfort and it seems to put me in the right place. I hope it helps you too.
Thank you, Karen. That was just what I needed today. And welcome back. We're so glad to have you back with us. Our centering thought today: we are called to gather in worship as a beloved community. We are called to set aside distractions and anxieties that we might touch deeper springs and be renewed. We are called to seek and to share comfort for the hurts that afflict. We are called to desire more love, more justice, and life more abundant. We are called to truth, to mercy, to humility, and to courage. Let us answer the call with the yes of our lives. Good morning. My name is Eleanor, and I have short white hair, glasses, and I'm wearing a mosaic shirt with a teal long-sleeve shirt underneath. Welcome to our Sunday morning gathering at Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are so glad that you have chosen to join with us today, whether you are here in person or joining us on Zoom. Summit is a liberal religious community bound together by shared principles drawn from a wide variety of world religions, humanist teachings, nature, science, philosophy, and personal practices. We aspire to be a religion of love and inclusion. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to Summit and would like to know more about us, we invite you to visit our website, summituuf.org, or talk to any of us this morning. This morning we are fortunate to have Peter Bolland back with us. He is a professor of philosophy and humanities and department chair at Southwestern College. He received his bachelor's in religious studies from UC Santa Barbara and his master's in philosophy from San Diego State. In addition to his college commitments, he lectures in a wide variety of venues on philosophical, spiritual, and mythological subjects. And this summer, Peter will be the keynote speaker at the Summer Break Camp for Adults, which is August 8th through 12th at Camp de Beneville Pines, where he will lead a multi-day workshop around his new book, The Seven Stone Path, An Everyday Journey to Wisdom. We're so glad to have you back with us today, Peter. The July issue of The Scene can now be downloaded from the website, for those who would like it. There are a few copies also in the greeting room. And we have announcements this morning from Carol and from Sandy. Carol, would you like to go first?
Good morning. I just wanted to alert you, maybe you saw it in the e-news, that Sunday, July 28th, we're going to have a concert. Music Committee is sponsoring a concert with Joe Ferrara. He's been here before. He's a singer, guitarist, and I think of him as a folk musician, but he has a wide repertoire. He does wide-ranging music, beautiful baritone voice. So come to services on Sunday the 28th, and then stick around for salon or go get some lunch. The concert will be at 2 p.m., and we're requesting a donation of $15 each to come see Joe on the 28th. There will be ticket sales here after services. I don't see anybody here for today, but later this month. And then we're also going to try selling tickets on Eventbrite this year, see how that works. So hope you can come. It should be a really nice concert. Thanks.
Good morning. Here on behalf of the Social Justice and Action Committee, which meets monthly on the second Sunday of the month, which will be next Sunday at noon. You're welcome to join us to learn about what's going on at Summit in that regard and our outreach. But I'm specifically here to tell you about the San Diego Pride Parade, which will be in 2 weeks from yesterday, July 20th, Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. It typically draws 250,000 people, and you can watch, but you can also participate because the UUs have a float. We should be learning the exact location of the boarding of the float, but the parade starts at 10 a.m., and you'd need to be there around then or a little earlier to be a part of that, and we'll put that out in the e-news as to the exact location. In terms of getting to the parade, obviously there's a big crowd, so don't advise driving and trying to park nearby. You can park at the Naval Hospital, the old Naval Hospital, and take a shuttle over, a free shuttle over, or you can take public transport or Uber or Lyft, etc. And Erin looks like she wants to follow up. And I'll be taking the parasols out of the closet to make them available to you. They'll be over by the the desk in the office, the front desk, if you want to have some shade cover. Those people that want to march can march, but there'll also be a flatbed trailer with seats on it for people that want to ride. So it's good exercise, but bring your sunscreen.
Thanks, Sandy, for helping us with that. And also, piggybacking on that, we have ordered for Summit nearly 1,000 Pride pins with our name and logo, and during Pride, we are going to pass them out on the walk to get Summit's name out and finally advertise big time for us. So if you want to help, please talk to me.
Thanks, Erin. We stand upon land that carries the footsteps of many generations of Kumeyaay people, which stretches from the shores of the Pacific Ocean, south to Ensenada, east to the sand dunes of the Colorado River in Imperial Valley, and north to Warner Springs Valley. We acknowledge that this fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land and honor the spirit and continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. Our chalice lighting for today. For this 1 hour, Spirit of Life, we let go. For this 1 hour, may we let go of our anxieties, our fears, our anger, our self-doubts, our regrets, our petty grievances, and our distractions. If only for this 1 hour, let the flame of this chalice burn them from our hearts and minds, and light our way to peace and serenity for this one holy hour. Please stand as you're willing and able to join us for the UU hymn and aspiration. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. You may be seated. Our reading today is by Heather Rion Starr. May I move gently through this cloudy, murky, gray day, or for us, this hot, humid day. May I remember that this is just one day, and that showing up is at least half of what is asked of me. May I set aside my underlying anxiety that I will not get to everything, and put my trust and faith onto the riverbank of the human community. We are working together. I am not alone. There is a love holding me that is unconcerned with my day's to-do list and more concerned with my spirit's survival, even its thriving, in this beautiful and challenging world. May we all remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, and that our efforts are part of an ongoing stream of efforts, of lives being lived beside one another, shoring up this world. May what little I do today be for the greater good. May I be gentle with others today, as I long for others to be gentle with me. May it be so. Now is the time in our service for joys and concerns, and I know of one concern. Yesterday, after returning from elementary camp, at home, Mary fell and landed on her elbow and broke her elbow. She's had quite the year. So she is not with us today as much as she would like to be. Time for all ages. Hi, I'm Mary. No. Today is the last day that the Lindem family will be with us, and hopefully they're just back in RE hanging out. Okay, good, they're here. Their family is moving to Portland, Oregon, and they have been an integral part of our RE family since years before the pandemic, when Mason and then Wesley were in the nursery. So we've seen them grow up, and now the triplets are talking, walking little toddlers. We are going to sorely miss them as part of our community and wish them the very best. As a celebration for their being part of our community, the social hour today is an ice cream social. Nice for the hot weather. And the kids are going to be help getting all the toppings ready so that there's lots of goodness for us after our discussion today. So the kids can now recess and follow Sarah. And here come the Lindems. Do you guys want to say anything before, or are you just sneaking in at the last minute? Come on up, please. Do you want to tell people about the adventure that you're going to have up in Oregon? Do you want to tell people what you know about it? No? Nothing? It's a big desert? Cool, what else? You want to say something, Jen?
Okay. Thank you to everybody for being so important to us for so long. And we have started going to a fellowship in Portland, and it won't be the same. So we will definitely be back to visit. Okay? Thank you so much. Okay.
So now the recession. Search for what is true. 5, all people have a say. 6, work for a peaceful world. 7, the web of life's the way that will bring us back to me and you. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, so, do. It's so good to see our RE program growing again. We've got 3 relatively new families. That's wonderful. When my kids were little, and I would go on walks with them, they taught me to see things again for the first time. I don't know if you guys have experienced this with your little ones, of noticing the roly-poly, and noticing the pretty flower, and taking time to just really be present with where you are. And this morning's first hymn, to me, reminds me to notice those things. And so please stand and join us in singing Morning Has Broken, number 38 in the Gray Hymnal. Praise for the what's wrong in completeness, will God's feet pass. What is the sunlight? What is the morning? More of the moonlight hidden softly. Praise with elation, praise every morning. God's recreation of the new day. Thank you. This reading is a story from Reverend Barbara Myers. Once, during my ministerial internship, a woman I'll call Clara came up to me during the hustle and bustle before the Sunday service. I knew that Clara struggled with anxiety. Now, in great distress, she told me how anxious she was and that she didn't know what to do. She was frantic, and I didn't know what I could do for her. At a loss, I suggested that we get out of the busy hallway and go together to a nearby empty room. I sat with her there, holding her hand in silence and thinking, what can I do? What can I say? I don't know what to do. After a couple of minutes, she said to me, I feel so much better just sitting here with you. I was amazed to realize that just by being present with Clara, caring about her, I had helped her, and that my presence in and of itself was a gift, and that her acknowledging that was a gift to me.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, check 1, 2. Yeah. Welcome to the sound check. Oh, I think we found me. Yeah? Thank you. Okay, beautiful. Good, good. Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Bolland. Good to be back. I was just looking through my notes. Last time I was here was just a short few months ago, April 14th. And I'm so grateful to whoever the decision makers are here who reach out to me. That's a very nice email to get from Summit UU to be invited back. And I want to think with you today about one of my favorite teachers. And so we'll spend a little time today thinking about that. But I first want to just start here that what I really love about the Unitarian Universalist movement, and I have the honor and privilege of speaking at a number of places like this. And you heard during the opening that I'll be up at Camp de Benneville even in August. And what I really love about the UU universe is the way it lifts up individual spiritual practice. They let you be who you are here and how you are and think what you think and live in your question without coercion. Not all churches are like that. News flash. If you're a cradle UU, I got news for you. It ain't like that in every house up and down the street. But, you know, in the UU universe, we are not told what to believe. Rather, we enter into a mutually supportive community where each of us just simply wants what's best for each other. And boy, does that serve a hunger in our soul. And there's this idea that we want what's best for each other, and we have enough faith or optimism to leave each other alone. And what a gift that is to give to someone, to leave them alone. In this sense, to trust one another to make their own best discernments about what their understandings of divinity might be, and about what specific practices might best nurture those understandings. To fundamentally trust that it is our essential nature to lean into ultimate reality in our own unique way. So, right here, right now, we're embraced by this diverse group of people who come from every corner of the ideological spectrum, so to speak. Atheists, agnostics, SBNRs, that's spiritual but not religious, doubting or devout Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Shinto, you name it, and members of the fastest growing demographic in American religion of all, none of the aboves. Or as we call it in my business in religious studies, we call them nuns. But it doesn't make any sense unless you're reading it. And I venture to guess that, like me, you love this about us. Because I think a lot of us understand this, that religion is not the ultimate. Religion is the penultimate. It's not the last thing, it's the second to the last thing. Religion is not the destination, it is the journey. Religion at its best is a means or a method of transformation, not the transformation itself. We do not coercively wield religion to change others. We are here to transform ourselves. So, it's in that spirit this morning that I want to introduce you to one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Nisargadatta Maharaj. Not a household name. But we'll get into his background a little bit in a minute, but I want to kind of come in through a different door. Let's get into his teachings through this door. If Unitarianism had church fathers, like Roman Catholics do with Augustine and all those guys, if Unitarians had church fathers, I think one of the principal ones would be Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he lived 1803 to 1882 in Concord, Massachusetts, about a 40-minute wagon ride outside of Boston. One of his neighbors, of course, was the Alcott family. Another neighbor was Henry David Thoreau, who did quite a bit of work for Emerson, was quite a bit younger than him, babysat his kids, helped him archive his books. And when Thoreau later died, he bequeathed his entire book collection to Emerson. And at that point, Emerson had the largest collection of books on Asian philosophy in the United States. And so the reason I'm bringing Emerson and Thoreau into this is because when they were both young kids at Harvard Divinity School, they were some of the first Americans to read the brand new English translations coming out of the British Empire into Boston Harbor and put on the shelf at Harvard of the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, the great spiritual classics of Hinduism. And I'm arguing that Emerson and Thoreau particularly, and later Walt Whitman, became such essential pillars in American religion and spirituality because they represent this curious, eclectic confluence of that sort of progressive, liberal Christian ideology and Vedanta, or Hindu philosophy. And so, in Emerson's very first book, Nature, 1837, shortly after was he fired or did he quit? Shortly after he left his position as a Unitarian minister in Boston, after he announced to his congregation, we're no longer going to be doing the Eucharist. I'm tired of looking back to the past. I don't want to worship Jesus that lived 2,000 years ago. I want to do what Jesus did here and now. We're not going to do the wine and the bread thing anymore. Well, his congregation let him go. That's back when Unitarians did the Eucharist all the time. And Emerson had a very successful, don't feel sorry for him, he had a very successful career after that as a lecturer and as a writer and so on. And he wrote his first book, Nature, and published it in 1837. And he wrote in that book an account of a mystical vision that he had walking in the winter twilight near his home. And I want to read this brief passage to you. It's gone on to become the most famous passage in all of American mystical spirituality. And then we're going to connect it to Hinduism. Any of you who've studied Hinduism for even a minute will see the connection yourself. So he wrote this. He said, "Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or parcel of God. I am the lover of uncontained and immortal beauty. In the wilderness, I find something more dear and connate or recognizable than in streets or villages. In the tranquil landscape, and especially in the distant line of the horizon, man beholds somewhat as familiar, as beautiful as his own nature." This ecstatic, mystical epiphany where Ralph Waldo Emerson disappeared and there was only awareness unassociated with a particular person or ego. That weird image of the transparent eyeball reminds me of that great Meister Eckhart line, the 14th century Roman Catholic mystic who said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." And in this passage, subjectivity vanishes. He enters into a universality. There's not me apprehending God, there's just God, or whatever word you like to use for that. He disappeared. And he wasn't microdosing or anything. This is just, a guy in the woods. So this is the most famous passage in all of American mystical literature. And I'm struck by how Indian it sounds, by how Hindu it sounds. And so I think in this passage particularly, and in all of Emerson's work, that ancient Vedic wisdom is coming through the voice of this early 19th century New Englander. It's weird. But that's how stuff works. So let's jump now to the 20th century. Do you remember the 20th century? Just a few years ago. To another great teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj. Now, he lived from 1897 to 1981 in what we used to call Bombay, India. Now it's called Mumbai. So he was a working class Indian guy, no formal education. In fact, he ran his own tobacco shop, chain smoker. And after work, he would go upstairs to his apartment, and because he was working with his guru, with his teacher, and meditating a lot, he became known as a teacher. And people would bring a big reel-to-reel tape recorder over to his apartment, and pilgrims would file upstairs to sit with him and ask him questions, because that's how teaching works in India. You don't lecture, you don't have lesson plans, you don't have pedagogy. You sit and wait till someone asks you a question. I swear I'm going to do that one of these semesters at Southwestern College. Just going to walk in the first day of class and stare them down for 4 months and see who asks me a question. No, there's no syllabus, no books, no lesson plan. Talk about student-centered learning, right? That's a little buzzword all of us teachers use. So that's what he did, and there's like hours and hours of him responding to pilgrims' questions, and somebody typed it up and put it in a book, and the book is called I Am That. It's one of the great classics of Vedanta. Vedanta is a school of Hinduism that teaches universalism, is how we call it around here. The idea that there is only one presence and power, and it is all divine. There is only one reality, sometimes called non-dualism or monism. The idea that everything is God, a kind of pantheism or panentheism. So Brahman in Vedanta is the name of the one that poured forth all matter, all energy, all consciousness. But Brahman itself is formless, immaterial, and eternal. But as it pours forth the world, it takes on form. It becomes temporal. it is housed in these ephemeral forms, you and I, and every leaf on every tree. All of it identical with Brahman, inseparably identical with it. Only we don't know it, that we are one with the divine. We don't know it because we're caught by the dazzling array of sensations pouring into us, and mostly caught by the busyness of our own conceptual minds, wrapped up as they tend to be with the notion of ego and separateness. So in fact, Nisargadatta puts it this way. He says, desiring a state of freedom from desire will not set you free. Does that make sense? No? Let me do it again. Wanting to be free, right? Don't we all want that? We want peace, free from anxiety. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough year. It's been a rough decade. Hell, this whole century's not going so hot. And the 20th was no picnic. Desiring a state of freedom from desire will not set you free. Nothing can set you free, he says, because you are free. See yourself with desireless clarity. That is all. So our hunger for peace is just another hunger that is driving the agitation. Krishnamurti, another great 20th century teacher, called it choiceless awareness. Somebody asked Krishnamurti once at a talk, what's your secret? What's your spiritual practice? And no one had ever asked him that. No one dared ask him that before. It was so invasive and personal. He's the great Krishnamurti. And he simply turned to the person who asked the question and he said, I don't mind what happens. You know, that's one thing when the drain backs up. It's another when you watch the world burning. To say, I don't mind what happens. To say, I don't have an attachment to any outcomes. To be desireless, or to practice what Krishnamurti called choiceless awareness. To simply observe this event, whatever it is, and not have to make a judgment about it. Not have to make a choice about it. It's good, it's bad. What would that even mean? I love that question. I don't know exactly how to do it either. But I'm glad I now know the question. That when something happens and I feel myself triggered into fear and agitation, I now know that I have a choice to say, you know, I don't have to have those reactions. Nisargadatta goes on, he says, there is no such thing as peace of mind. Mind means disturbance. Restlessness is itself mind. The deeper divine self, the Atman, does not need to be put to rest. It is peace itself. Only the mind is restless. Instead of searching for what you do not have, find out what it is that you have never lost. When I teach meditation, that's always an interesting theme I try to emphasize, because the complaint of every beginning meditator is, I can't stop thinking. I can't turn off my mind. A lot of beginning meditators mistakenly believe that to sit in meditation is to throw the switch and turn off the fire hose torrent of thoughts. And obviously, the instant you begin to sit in meditation, the first thing you notice is the fire hose torrent of thoughts. And pretty soon you're working on your Costco shopping list. And you're like, I'm supposed to be meditating. Rotisserie chicken. And then you think, well, damn it, I can't meditate. Meditation's for someone else. And it's so powerful to let people know, guess what? It is the mind's nature to spew forth continual thought. And instead of trying to stop the thought, why interfere with nature? That's like going to a river and complaining because it won't stop flowing. Or going to the beach and saying, what's with all these damn waves? What if instead I said, you know what, I'm going to let my mind up just do what it does, and then I'm going to slip down beneath into the stillness beneath the waves. And that is the classic definition of yoga from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. To slip into the stillness beneath the agitations of the thoughts. And without a meditation practice, you would never experience that stillness because we're just identified with our thoughts. He says the greatest guru is your inner self. So to me, this speaks to the futility of spiritually seeking, of seeking God. How can we become what we already are? That's the great paradox of non-duality. You already are that which you are seeking. Maybe it's the mechanism of seeking that when I get, who I am now is crap, but when I become that person, then I will feel enlightenment. This place is kind of but when I move over there, then it's going to be blissful. He says, you are universal. You need not and you cannot become what you already are. And then this next line, he's so good. He says, having never left the house, you are asking for the way home. Having never left the house, you are asking for the way home. And he says, don't try to understand. It's enough if you do not misunderstand. Don't rely on your mind for liberation. It is the mind that brought you into bondage. Go beyond it altogether. So I'm afraid as human beings, many of us have noticed, we cannot think our way out of a wet paper bag. Thoughts don't solve our problems. They just add more thoughts. So when he says, what was never lost can never be found, your very search for safety and joy keeps you away from them. Stop searching, he says. Cease losing. The disease is simple and the remedy equally simple. It is your mind only that makes you insecure and unhappy. Anticipation makes you insecure. Memory, unhappy. Stop misusing your mind and all will be well with you. You need not set it right. It will set itself right, like the story you shared of the minister who sat with the woman suffering from anxiety and had no idea what to say and was shocked when the woman said, thank you, you fixed me, so to speak. That, you know what I needed was silence and space, not your clever words. All of us who have done work in palliative care and in hospice care, it's terrifying right before you walk into the room. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? It turns out you don't have to have special magic words. What do you say when your friend calls to tell you that their child has died? You rush over to the house in the middle of the night and you sit with them in the chaos, in the eye of the hurricane. And now finally to the title of this talk, Water Mind, Honey Mind. Nisargadatta puts it this way. The mind exists in two states, as water and as honey. The water vibrates at the least disturbance, while the honey, however disturbed, returns quickly to immobility. So you have those two liquids in mind, water and honey. I think that's just such a beautiful, down-to-earth, literally kitchen table metaphor. That there are different phases of what I call my consciousness. One of them is like water. The slightest agitation, it becomes agitated. And yet beneath the waves of the thought stream, perhaps there is a honey core, which you can disturb a little bit, but it's going to return to stasis almost immediately, to stillness almost immediately. And then he offers us this counsel in our meditation practice. He says, watch your thoughts as you would watch street traffic. Your very fighting them gives them life. It is disinterestedness that liberates. Don't hold on, that is all. Imagine if we could train ourselves through meditation to do what Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita calls becoming the inner witness. So instead of being stuck in traffic and getting agitated because I'm stuck in traffic and who are all these people and blah, 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 then the narrative just starts pouring and my unhappiness increases. What if at that moment I slip into the inner witness and watch my reactivity as if I'm watching traffic from my balcony in a hotel in a foreign city. The cars come and they go, and the light turns red and the light turns green. What if I could watch my thoughts with the same disinterestedness that I watch that traffic? It's a pretty interesting suggestion. Instead of doing what I default do, which is identify with my thoughts. I'm getting anxious. I'm angry. Instead of, this is going to sound weird, but to become the inner witness would be in that moment of being stuck in traffic and feeling my agitation going up. What if I said, oh, Peter Bolland's getting anxious. Like, who the hell's talking? That's the inner witness. What if I watched myself? And I will promise you this, if you try this one thing, next time something happens that triggers you, it's just a mental trick. You pretend that you are witnessing yourself and acknowledge that emotions are happening, fear is happening, anxiety is happening. In the instant of stepping outside and witnessing, let me say it simpler. With the simple act of witnessing, half of the intensity comes out of the reactivity. Don't take my word for it. Just try it yourself. You'll be amazed. Once you break the spell of the story that you are experiencing these sufferings, the suffering is immediately cut in half. I think that's what's behind the water and honey image. He goes on to say, the world is made of rings. The hooks are all yours. Imagine Velcro. One side's a lot of hooks, the other side's a lot of hoops, circles. You put them together. So it just so happens that the world is made of rings, but the hooks are all ours. He says, make straight your hooks, and nothing can hold you. The death of the mind is the birth of wisdom. It's difficult to reduce a teaching or a teacher down to one sentence, because I could argue with that sentence all day long. The death of the mind is the birth of wisdom. That sounds dangerous, but I think in the context of what we've been thinking through, we see what he's getting at. That reactive mind, in love with its own judgments and thoughts, that's the mind that needs to go. How? Again, by becoming that inner witness. And so in all of our various spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, that works really well for some people. Spiritual service, taking action to help heal the world, that's a powerful spiritual practice. Right action, compassion. What about this? This is what Buddha called the Sangha, the community. The Buddha taught in early Buddhism that there were three pillars of the practice: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha was the teacher, the Dharma was the teachings, but the Sangha was the most important. And it just means community. To sit together like this, even if we don't talk to everybody in the room. The way we feel better when we walk out of here than when we came in. That our presence here leaves a scent, a kind of lingering, wordless awareness that subtly influences the hours that follow. The rest of Sunday afternoon proceeds a little more sweetly when you come to a Sangha like this. That's what keeps so many of us coming back to these rooms. Can't quite put our finger on why, but when we're not here, we feel a kind of absence. These sessions give us new eyes with which to see the world and new heart with which to feel the world. And you can't do that alone. So many of us folks who call ourselves spiritual but not religious are terribly alone. We are loners. We read our little books, we watch our little videos, we have our little practices, but to come together and surrender an hour of your life to something like this is a presence that's difficult to generate on your own. All these beautiful souls. So maybe there is nothing to be done other than cultivating authentic presence wherever we are, whatever we are doing. It is in the natural moments of our everyday lives that we best experience the sacred. That's what was so key to the teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj. Nothing special. Right in this life, this messy, imperfect, frustrating life. And when we realize that when we stop looking, we find. And when we realize that we already are what we seek, we awaken to the infinite abundance that we are. And when we dip beneath the troubled waters, the troubled waves of the water mind, and into the honeyed depths of our inner oneness with divinity, that is the sweetness of peace. Not one of your steps leads away from it. We don't have to become something. We don't have to add something. Another quote from Meister Eckhart, in his Roman Catholic theology, he put it this way, that we do not find God through a process of addition, but through a process of subtraction. This is what the great wisdom traditions show us. Glimmerings we affirm in our own deepest realization. Give yourself that chance. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter. I have lots to think about now.
No thinking.
Oh, lots to not think about now. Oh, my. Now is the time for our offertory. Your Sunday morning offering is a gift that provides Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship the financial resources, in addition to our pledges, to help build a better world together. Any gift is welcome. The link for those of you on Zoom can be found in the chat as well as in the virtual order of service. Please select the Sunday plate option to allocate your donation to the appropriate account.
I'm playing a piece by Liszt, which has, it's about a lake in Switzerland when he was on his trips in Switzerland, and it has a poem at the beginning that kind of seems to go with what our speaker was telling us. Thy contrasted lake with the wild world I dwelt in is a thing which warns me with its stillness to forsake earth's troubled waters for a purer spring.
Singing hymn 1011 in the Teal hymnal, Return Again. Words are on the wall.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to invite you to join us next week. Our Minister Emeritus, Reverend Ned White, will be zooming in to talk about preserving our democracy. Our closing words and chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So after our closing circle song, we'll have a 5-minute break, and then we'll come together for discussion about the service, followed by the ice cream social. So please stand and join hands for the closing circle song.